Should you avoid gluten? Well, what is gluten? Gluten is a protein found in wheat and things that contain wheat. Gluten can be found in a whole bunch of things, even like soy sauce, because they use wheat to make it, or something maybe like vanilla extract, because the alcohol they use to extract the vanilla is a wheat grain based alcohol. So it can get down to really refined. And the answer is really personal. If you have celiacs or a gluten intolerance, then yeah, you should probably avoid gluten. People who have celiac disease need to avoid gluten to the extreme. They can't even have that vanilla extract that has a little bit of gluten in it. But somebody who maybe has a gluten intolerance can handle the vanilla extract, but just can't eat bread and pasta and things like that with gluten in it. They have to eat the gluten-free versions. However, if you don't have a problem with gluten and you're going out of your way to avoid eating it by buying gluten-free products. Like, for example, I eat a gluten-free pasta. I eat bread and gluten a lot, but I eat a gluten-free pasta, like a brown rice pasta, because I really enjoy the way it tastes and it has very minimal ingredients. However, a lot of gluten-free products, like gluten-free breads and crackers and cookies, they have a lot of weird ingredients in it. Just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's healthy. So that's the first thing, is don't go to gluten-free foods seeing the words gluten-free and being like automatically thinking that it's a health food because it says gluten-free on it. They're not necessarily trying to be healthy, they're trying to be a tasty food product for somebody who can't eat gluten, who really can't eat it, and that person might go and eat some junk food regardless of its health. They just want a cookie. So they're gonna eat this gluten-free cookie because they can, regardless of what it's got in it. And they might have to do some weird things to it to make it similar to a cookie filled with gluten, because it's really hard to reproduce things. I mean, now with just people experimenting, I'm sure that the gluten-free products are getting better and better. But if you're just a regular person without any necessary gluten sensitivity, if you do cut gluten out of your diet, but however have cut out all most processed foods and aren't replacing it with anything gluten-free, instead of eating breads, you're eating grains and beans and vegetables and whole foods. If you're not eating processed foods and you're just eating whole foods, cutting out gluten will help. It will make you feel a little bit better and make you feel a little bit cleaner and help you move a little bit more. However, I'm not telling anybody to necessarily remove gluten from their diet, because I don't find it messes with my digestion. I have good digestion and I'll eat bread, and it's, I don't feel like it's got a lot of that much gluten in it when I'm eating breads and pastas and things. But however, when I do eat like seitan, which is pure gluten, it really makes me feel really tired, and it takes a really long time for your body to digest all of those proteins, because it is extracted. That's like even more of a processed food than just bread would be, because they extract the gluten out of it and then you make like a meat type product out of it. I prefer tofu, and I always used to think that tofu was kind of extremely processed also, but then I've learned after I made it in my own kitchen that it's just soy milk, and they curdle it with, you make soy milk kind of like the way you make almond milk, and then you curdle it with lemon juice and you scoop out the curdles and let it strain, and that's tofu. So it's just basically curdled beans, which is not as, I mean, it is extracted, but I don't know if I could make gluten at my house, and it definitely doesn't affect my stomach as bad. So I feel like tofu, and fermenting the beans and taking the curds out of it, it almost makes it really easy to digest. And gluten, on the other hand, is really intense and difficult to digest, like the seitan. But, for example, my boyfriend, he thinks recently that he wants to try to go gluten-free for a little while. So it's not bad to experiment, because if it works for you and you don't have bread cravings, and you're not going to go out of your way to be buying these gluten-free breads to fill those cravings, it might help you a whole bunch. So you can do a little bit of an elimination diet and take gluten out of your diet for a little while. You don't have to go so crazy if you're just doing that as to not use your vanilla extract, because that's not going to be too much. Just don't eat breads and things like that have a whole bunch of gluten in them and are made out of wheat. So in the end, for the most part, unless you have a certain gluten intolerance, I don't think you need to avoid gluten. I don't think that it's bad. I'll eat an entire loaf of bread. Well, I mean, not so much, but I'll eat a lot of bread and not have any problems with it. It's all personal, and it depends on how you digest it. And it depends on where you're at in your journey of health. Because if you're just cleaning up your diet and you're at that level where you're eating mostly whole foods, and the only thing that's still left in your diet that's kind of processed is breads and glutens and stuff, yeah, you should remove that gluten from your diet if you're ready to take that next step. It will help you a little bit, but it's not this crazy bad thing that you might believe it out to be unless you have a certain intolerance for it. I hope this video helped. Let me know what you think down below about gluten and bread and things like that. And one more thing I wanted to mention is that if you do cut out the processed foods from your diet and stop eating breads and pastas and things like that that have gluten in it and are eating just whole plant-based whole foods, you should still try to eat maybe barley and things like that sometimes, because whole grain wheat cooked the same as rice I find is delicious and doesn't affect my digestion at all the way like seitan or something would, or that little bit of gluten. I'm not sure if that would be as bad as eating some processed food. I don't find personally any issues with whole grain wheat berries, things like that to eat in your meals, like barley soup or something. Let me know what you think down below. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.